My grandmother never threw anything away. Not the bread heels, not the onion skins, not even the water she boiled apples in. And when I asked her why, she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. Because, baby, when you got nothing, you learned to make something out of air. She wasn't exaggerating. She grew up in a time when one pot was all you had, one flame, one chance to feed everyone at the table. And if you wasted food, you didn't eat tomorrow. So she learned recipes most people today have never heard of. Recipes that sound impossible, recipes that kept families alive when there was nothing left in the cupboard. Today I'm sharing 25 of them. Some will surprise you, some might even shock you, but every single one of them works. And every single one of them was cooked by someone who loved their family enough to turn scraps into supper. Let's start with something that sounds too simple to be real. 1. Milk-Poached Onion Bread pot. You take old bread, the kind that's gone hard and stale and nobody wants to eat anymore. You slice it thin, real thin, and you drop it into a pot with milk and sliced onions. Then you let it simmer low and slow until the bread goes soft again. Spoon soft. Almost like a savory pudding. It smells sweet when it's cooking. The milk steams up and mixes with the onions, and your whole kitchen fills with this gentle, comforting smell. Grandma made this on nights when the cupboard was completely bare, when payday was still 3 days away and the pantry shelves were empty. She'd sit us down at the table with our mismatched bowls, and we'd eat it slow, because we knew it might be all we got until morning. People back then didn't waste bread. They couldn't afford to. Bread was expensive. Flour was precious. So they found ways to bring stale bread back to life. This dish taught me that food doesn't have to be fresh to be good. Sometimes the best meals come from saving what others would throw away. 2. Rice cooked in apple water. When you peeled apples for pie or sauce, you saved the skins. Every single one. You put them in a pot with water and boiled them until the water turned golden and smelled like autumn. Then you strained them out, and you cooked your rice in that apple water instead of plain water. The rice came out soft and just a little bit sweet, like someone whispered sugar into it but didn't say it out loud, like the ghost of apples was hiding in every grain. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't a dessert, but it was something. Grandma used to say, "Flavor hides in the things people throw away." She'd say it while stirring that pot, watching the rice soak up all that gentle sweetness. Most people today peel their apples and toss those skins straight in the trash without thinking twice. Back then, that would have been unthinkable, wasteful, almost sinful. This recipe isn't just about rice, it's about respect. Respect for food, respect for the hard work it takes to put anything on the table at all. 3. Fat-glossed noodle drop pot. This one's simple. Almost too simple. But that's what makes it genius. You boil noodles, plain noodles. Just noodles and water and maybe a pinch of salt if you had it. And right at the very end, after you drain them, you stir in a spoonful of saved fat. Bacon fat, lard, chicken fat, whatever you had sitting in that jar by the stove. The noodles get shiny, they get slippery, and suddenly they taste like something instead of nothing. The fat coats every strand and turns plain boiled noodles into an actual meal. Grandma kept a jar of fat by the stove at all times. She called it her emergency flavor. Every time she cooked bacon or roasted a chicken, she'd pour that fat into the jar and save it. She'd scrape every last bit from the pan because nothing got wasted. And she used it more than she'd like to admit. On nights when there was no butter, no oil, no money for anything fancy. That jar represented survival. It represented making do. It represented love in its most practical form. 4. Potato peel and vinegar simmer. You didn't throw away potato skins, not ever. You scrubbed them clean under cold water. You inspected them for bad spots, and then you put them in a pot with water, salt, and a little splash of vinegar. You cooked them low and slow until they got soft and tender. The vinegar cut through the natural bitterness of the skins. The salt made them taste like actual food instead of scraps. And when you were done, you had something real to eat. People today peel potatoes and toss those skins in the trash without a second thought. They see them as garbage, as waste. Back then, that would have been absolutely unthinkable. Those skins represented food, real food. Grandma would sit at the table with a paring knife and peel potatoes so carefully, making sure those skins came off thick enough to have substance. She'd tell us stories while she worked. Stories about harder times, times when even potato peels felt like a luxury. Because when you got nothing, the peel isn't garbage. The peel is dinner, too. 5. Cold night camp. Flour dumpling pot. Flour, water, salt. That's it. 3 ingredients. Nothing more. You mix them together into a thick, heavy dough, the kind that fights back when you stir it. Then you pinch off little pieces with your fingers and drop them into boiling salted water. They sink at first, then slowly they float to the top. They puff up just a little. They get dense and heavy and filling. When you eat them, they sit in your stomach like stones. Good stones, the kind that make you feel full for hours. Grandma made these on the coldest nights of winter, nights when the wind came howling through the walls and there was no wood left for the fire. She'd stand there in her thin dress and worn apron, dropping those dumplings one by one, counting them silently to make sure there were enough for everyone. And we'd eat them slow, chewing carefully, because they were all we had. Those dumplings weren't just food, they were survival. They were proof that even with almost nothing, you could still feed your family. 6. Tomato seed and pulp rice pot. When you cooked with fresh tomatoes, you didn't throw away the seeds and pulp. Absolutely not. You strained them out carefully. You saved every drop of that juice, and when it came time to cook rice, you used that tomato liquid instead of plain water. The rice turned pink as it cooked, a soft, gentle pink. It tasted like summer, even in the dead of winter when tomatoes were just a memory. It wasn't tomato sauce. It wasn't pasta. It wasn't anything fancy. But it was something different, something that made plain rice feel special. Grandma would save tomato scraps in a bowl all week long. Every time she used a tomato for anything, those seeds and that pulp went into the bowl. By the end of the week, she'd have enough to flavor a whole pot of rice. She'd strain it through cheesecloth, squeezing every last drop of juice from those seeds. Her hands would turn red from the acid. But she didn't care, because that juice represented flavor. It represented variety. It represented the difference between eating and actually enjoying what you ate. 7. Wilted lettuce and onion pot. Lettuce was expensive, really expensive. So when it started to wilt and turn sad in the icebox, you absolutely did not throw it out. That would have been like throwing money in the trash. Instead, you put it in a pot with sliced onions and just a little bit of water. You covered it, and you simmered it low until the lettuce went completely soft and the onions turned sweet. It tasted warm, a little sweet from the onions, a little sad, if food can taste sad. But it filled the pot. It made steam. It looked like you were cooking something real. Grandma used to say, "Even dying vegetables got one more meal left in them." She'd say it with this determined look in her eyes, like she was challenging the vegetables to prove her wrong. She'd cook that wilted lettuce until it broke down completely, until it almost melted into the onions, until you couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. This dish taught me that freshness isn't everything, that even vegetables on their last legs still have value, still have nutrition, still have purpose. 8. Milk-stretched egg thread soup. 1 egg. That's all you had in the whole house. 1 single egg to feed 4 hungry people. So you didn't scramble it, you didn't fry it, you stretched it. You cracked that egg into a bowl and beat it hard with a fork until it was completely smooth. Then you brought a pot of milk and water to a gentle boil, and very slowly, very carefully, you poured that beaten egg into the boiling liquid while stirring constantly with your other hand. The egg turned into thin yellow threads, like silk floating through the pot, like golden ribbons dancing in the milk. It looked like more than it was. It looked like a real soup, like something substantial. And that was the entire point, because when you got one egg and 4 mouths to feed, you don't divide it, you multiply it. Grandma made this on mornings when the chickens weren't laying, when that one egg in the icebox was all we had. She'd make this soup and serve it in our biggest bowls, so it looked like plenty. This recipe taught me about illusion, about making little look like a lot. But this one might surprise you. 9. Burnt sugar water pot, sweet supper. Sometimes there was no dessert, no cake, no pie, no cookies, nothing sweet at all. And when you're a kid, that's hard, really hard. You crave something sweet, something that makes you smile. So Grandma made this. She'd put plain white sugar in a dry pan and heat it carefully, watching it like a hawk. The sugar would melt and turn golden, then amber, then deep brown. The whole kitchen would smell like caramel, like county fairs and happiness. Then she'd add water very carefully. It would hiss and spit and steam, and she'd stir in just a tiny bit of starch to thicken it slightly. We'd eat it warm, with spoons, like soup. Like the sweetest soup you ever tasted. It tasted like hope. Like someone cared enough to make something special, even when there was nothing left to make it with. And we'd go to bed smiling, our bellies warm with burnt sugar. This wasn't just food, this was comfort. This was Grandma looking at our disappointed faces and refusing to let us go to bed sad. She'd burn that sugar with such concentration, such determination. 10. Broken cracker and hot water pot. Crackers broke. They went stale. They sat in the bottom of the box in crumbs and pieces that nobody wanted, but you didn't throw them out. Not ever. You dumped all those broken crackers into a pot. Every crumb, every fragment. You poured hot salted water over them and stirred constantly while they softened and dissolved and turned into this thick, warm porridge. It tasted like comfort, like someone was trying their best with what they had, like love expressed through salt water and broken crackers. Grandma would save cracker crumbs in a jar. Every time a cracker broke, those pieces went into the jar. When the jar was full, she'd make this. She'd heat that water until it was almost boiling. She'd add salt carefully, tasting as she went. Then she'd pour it over those crumbs and stir until it all came together into something you could actually eat with a spoon. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't even particularly good. But it was hot. It was filling. And it was made with whatever we had. This recipe taught me that broken things still have value. 11. Cold weather potato mash pot. You boiled potatoes in salted water until they were fall-apart soft. And when they were done, you didn't drain them into a colander and transfer them to a bowl. You mashed them right there in the same pot they cooked in. With a fork or an old potato masher. No extra dishes, no wasted water, no wasted heat. You mashed and mashed until they were smooth. You'd add a little of the cooking water back in if they got too thick. And that was it. That was dinner. You ate it plain most of the time, maybe with a little salt if you were lucky. It was simple, almost too simple, but it was warm. And on cold nights, when the wind rattled the windows, warm was everything. Grandma made this more times than I can count. Winter nights, late fall nights, early spring nights when the weather couldn't make up its mind. She'd serve it in those same bowls we used for everything, and we'd eat it while it was still steaming, blowing on our spoons to cool it down. Sometimes she'd tell us to close our eyes and imagine it was fancy restaurant mashed potatoes with butter and cream. 12. Leftover coffee rice supper. Coffee was expensive, really expensive. You didn't buy it often, and when you did, you used every single drop. So you saved the leftover coffee from breakfast. You poured it into a jar and kept it in the icebox. And when it came time to make dinner and you needed to cook rice, you diluted that coffee with water and used it as your cooking liquid. The rice came out dark, sort of brownish. It tasted a little bitter, a little strange, definitely not like any rice you'd eat today. But it was warm, it was filling, and that bitter coffee flavor somehow made it feel more substantial, more grown-up, more like real food. Grandma said it woke up the rice. She'd say it with this little smile, like she knew it sounded weird but didn't care. We didn't argue, we just ate it. Sometimes she'd add a tiny pinch of sugar to cut the bitterness. Sometimes she wouldn't. It depended on whether we had sugar that week. This recipe taught me that coffee isn't just for drinking, that flavors can be repurposed, that what seems used up might still have another use hiding inside it. 13. Onion-only long simmer pot. You take whole onions. You don't chop them, you don't slice them. You just peel off the papery skin and put them in a pot whole. You add just enough water to barely cover them. You put a lid on, and you cook them for hours. 3 hours, 4 hours, sometimes longer. Slowly, very slowly, they break down. They turn soft and sweet. The layers start to separate and melt into each other, and the water they're cooking in turns thick and syrupy and deeply flavorful. It's not fancy, it's definitely not pretty, but it's food, real food. Grandma made this when there was literally nothing else in the house except onions, when the garden had stopped producing and the pantry was bare and payday was still days away. She'd put those onions on the stove in the morning and let them cook all day while she did other things. The whole house would smell like sweet, caramelized onions. By dinner time, those onions would be falling apart. She'd serve them in bowls with their cooking liquid. We'd eat them with spoons like soup. They tasted sweet and savory at the same time, and people still talk about the next dish today. 14. Milk-boiled dumpling squares. You make the simplest dough imaginable, just flour and water, nothing else, no eggs, no butter, no salt even. You knead it a little bit until it comes together. You roll it out thin on whatever surface you have, and you cut it into rough squares with a knife. Then you drop those squares into boiling milk. Plain milk. Just milk in a pot, heated until it bubbles. The dumpling squares sink at first, then they float. They puff up just slightly. They get soft and tender, and they soak up that milk like little clouds soaking up rain. It tastes gentle, mild, like someone's trying to take care of you, like someone noticed you were hungry and tired and made you something soft to eat. Grandma made these when one of us was sick, when we had a fever or a cough or just felt awful, when we couldn't eat anything heavy or strong. She'd stand at the stove and drop those dough squares in one by one. She'd watch them float to the top, then she'd serve them in a bowl with the hot milk, and we'd eat it slowly, feeling it warm us from the inside out. 15. Apple core and starch supper. Apple cores, the hard center part that nobody wants to eat. Most people today throw them away without thinking. They eat the apple and toss the core straight in the trash. But not Grandma, not back then. She'd save every single core in a bowl. When she had enough, she'd put them in a pot with water and simmer them for a long time until all the flavor came out. Then she'd strain out the cores, pressing them hard to get every drop of liquid. And she'd thicken that apple-flavored water with a little bit of cornstarch or flour. It tasted like apples without actually being apples, like the memory of fruit, like the ghost of a pie that never got made. And we'd eat it warm, pretending it was dessert. The texture was strange, sort of slippery and thick, but we didn't care. It was sweet. It tasted like apples, and it made dinner feel less empty. Grandma would serve this in our smallest bowls, so it looked like more. She'd tell us to eat it slow, to savor every spoonful. This recipe taught me that even the parts everyone throws away still have flavor locked inside them. 16. Water-only lentil breakdown pot. Lentils and water. That's it. Nothing else. No salt at first, no oil, no onions, no garlic, no spices, nothing. You put dried lentils in a pot with plain water and you cook them low and slow until they break down completely, until they get soft and mushy and start to thicken the cooking water all on their own. It takes time, patience. You can't rush it. But eventually those lentils break down so much that the pot looks almost creamy, thick, substantial. Then, and only then, you add salt, just salt, maybe a little pepper if you had it. And somehow it's enough. Lentils were cheap, really cheap. cheaper than almost anything else you could buy. So when money was tight, lentils became a staple. Grandma would buy a big bag and make it last for weeks. She'd cook them different ways, but this was the simplest, the most basic, the version she made when there was nothing else to add. It was plain, it was boring, but it was protein, it was filling, it kept us alive. This recipe taught me that food doesn't need a long ingredient list to be nutritious. 17. Cold Camp Potato Coin Pot. You take potatoes and you slice them thin, like coins, like you're trying to make them into money. You put those thin slices in a pot with just enough salted water to cover them, and you simmer them gently, not boiling hard, but gently, until they're so soft you can cut them with a spoon. No butter, no cream, no cheese, just potatoes and salted water and thyme. It's quiet food, the kind you eat slowly, the kind that makes you think while you're eating it. Grandma made this on nights when everything felt heavy and hard, when money was tight and the future felt uncertain, when she needed to feed us but didn't have the energy for anything complicated. She'd slice those potatoes carefully, all the same thickness so they'd cook evenly. She'd lay them in the pot in neat layers. Then she'd sit down while they cooked and stare out the window at nothing. When they were ready, she'd serve them without saying much, and we'd eat them the same way, quietly, thoughtfully. Those potato coins weren't just food, they were meditation. They were a break from worry. 18. Salted flour paste pot. This one's hard to talk about, really hard, because this is what you made when there was absolutely nothing left, when the cupboard was completely bare, when you'd used up every scrap, every peel, every crumb. Flour and water, mixed together into a thick paste, cooked carefully over low heat, stirring constantly so it doesn't lump up. It has no flavor, no real texture, nothing pleasant about it at all. But it fills your stomach. It stops the hunger pains for a little while, and sometimes, when things are bad enough, that's all you can ask for. Grandma only made this twice in all the years I knew her, and both times I saw her cry while she cooked it. She'd stand at the stove stirring that paste, tears running down her face, and she'd whisper, "I'm sorry," over and over. We didn't know what she was apologizing for. We were kids. We didn't understand that feeding your children flour paste means you've failed at something fundamental. This recipe taught me that poverty isn't romantic, that hunger isn't a story, that sometimes people have to eat things that aren't really food just to survive another day. 19. Rice and onion skin broth pot. Onion skins make broth, rich, golden broth. You save the papery skins every time you peel an onion. You collect them in a jar or a bowl, and when you have enough, you boil them in water until the water turns deep golden brown. Then you strain out the skins and cook your rice in that onion skin broth instead of plain water. The rice comes out beautiful, golden. It tastes like onions, but gently, like someone whispered onion flavor into every single grain without shouting it. It's simple. It costs almost nothing, but it works. Grandma kept a jar specifically for onion skins. Every time she used an onion, those skins went into the jar. When the jar was full, she'd make this. She'd boil those skins for a long time, squeezing every bit of flavor and color out of them. The water would turn darker and darker, more and more golden. Then she'd strain it carefully and cook a big pot of rice in that liquid. The rice tasted like something, like it had been seasoned, like someone had tried to make it special. This recipe taught me that value hides in unexpected places, that the things we throw away without thinking might be exactly what we need. 20. Milk-thinned mashed root pot. Any root vegetable would work for this. Carrots, turnips, parsnips, rutabagas, whatever you could get cheap or grow yourself. You'd peel them and chop them and boil them until they were completely soft, fork tender, falling apart. Then you'd mash them right there in the pot with whatever cooking liquid was left. You'd add a little milk if you had it, just to make them smooth and easier to eat. It was simple, plain, but it went down easy. The texture was smooth. The flavor depended on whatever vegetable you used. Carrots made it sweet, turnips made it sharp, parsnips made it earthy. Grandma made this when one of us was sick and couldn't eat anything solid or heavy, when we had a sore throat or an upset stomach, or just felt weak and awful. She'd mash those vegetables until they were perfectly smooth, no lumps, nothing to chew, just soft, warm food that slid down your throat without effort. She'd feed it to us with a spoon and tell us stories about when she was young. This recipe taught me that cooking for sick people is different, that sometimes food needs to be gentle, easy, non-threatening. 21. Leftover jam water porridge. When the jam jar was empty, or looked empty, it actually wasn't. Not really. There was always jam stuck to the sides, jam in the threads of the lid, jam in the bottom corners that a spoon couldn't reach. So you didn't throw the jar away, you poured hot water into it, you screwed the lid on tight and shook it hard until that leftover jam dissolved into the water, then you poured that sweet water over your oatmeal, or cream of wheat, or whatever grain you were cooking. The grain tasted like fruit, like sugar, like someone had tried to make your breakfast special, even though there was no fresh jam to actually put on top. It was an illusion, a trick. But it worked. Grandma did this with every empty jam jar, every single one. She'd shake that jar like she was angry at it, determined to get every bit of sweetness out. Then she'd pour that tinted water over our morning porridge and serve it like it was a treat. And to us it was, because that faint sweetness was better than no sweetness at all. This recipe taught me about maximizing every resource, about refusing to accept that something is empty just because it looks empty. 22. Soft bread, heel, soak pot, bread heels. The end pieces that nobody wanted to eat when the bread was fresh. They'd sit there getting harder and harder while everyone ate the soft middle slices. But you didn't throw them out. You saved them. You collected them in a bowl until you had enough. Then you put them all in a pot together. You poured warm water or milk over them, and you heated them gently until they softened and started to stick together. It wasn't pretty. It looked like mush, but it was food. It was warm. And when you're hungry, pretty doesn't matter. Grandma would save bread heels for weeks sometimes. She'd keep them in a cloth bag hanging by the stove so they'd stay dry. When the bag was full, she'd make this. She'd soak those heels until they fell apart, until they became one cohesive mass instead of individual pieces. Then she'd serve it in bowls, sometimes with a little bit of that saved bacon fat stirred in, sometimes plain. It filled our stomachs. It used up what would have been wasted. This recipe taught me that even the parts nobody wants can become a meal. You just have to be willing to see them differently. 23. Simple camp pasta tear pot. No rolling pin, no cutting board, no pasta machine, nothing fancy. You make dough with flour and water. Just those two things. You knead it a little until it comes together. And then you tear it with your hands. You just tear off pieces and drop them into boiling salted water. The pieces come out uneven, rough, jagged, some thick, some thin, some big, some small. But they're filling, and that's all they need to be. Grandma made this when she was too tired to roll anything out, when her hands hurt from working all day, when she just needed to get food on the table fast. She'd sit there tearing that dough into pieces, dropping them into the pot one by one, not thinking, not measuring, just tearing. The pasta would cook in minutes. She'd drain it and add whatever she had. Sometimes just salt, sometimes a little fat, sometimes nothing at all. And we'd eat it, because it was food, because it was there, because Grandma made it. This recipe taught me that perfection isn't necessary, that food doesn't have to look good to work, that sometimes good enough is exactly right. 24. Salt-only vegetable collapse pot. One vegetable. Any vegetable. Whatever you had, a cabbage, a bunch of greens, some carrots, whatever. You take that one vegetable and you cook it until it falls apart completely, until it breaks down into something soft and thick and almost unrecognizable. Then you add salt, just salt, nothing else. And somehow, through the magic of long, slow cooking, it tastes like home. It tastes like comfort. It tastes like someone cared. Grandma made this when the garden gave her too much of one thing, when she had a whole cabbage and nothing to go with it, when the neighbors gave her a bag of greens and she needed to use them up. She'd chop that vegetable roughly and put it in a pot with just enough water to keep it from burning. Then she'd cook it for hours, stirring occasionally, watching it break down, watching it transform from something fresh and crisp into something soft and yielding. And at the very end, she'd add salt, she'd taste it, she'd add a little more, and that would be dinner. This recipe taught me that simplicity can be enough, that one ingredient, treated with respect and time, can become a meal. But this last one? This one's different. 25, end-of-week everything pot. Friday night. The cupboard's almost empty, the week's been long, the money's run out, and there's not much left. So you take everything, every scrap, every leftover, every bit of nothing that's been sitting in the icebox or the pantry, and you put it all in one pot. You don't add anything new, you don't go to the store, you don't borrow from the neighbors, you just work with what's there. A few spoonfuls of rice, a half onion, some wilted greens, a potato, whatever scraps of meat are left on a bone, a heel of bread, some beans. It all goes in. You add water, you add salt, you cook it until everything breaks down and becomes one thing, one meal. It's not the same every time, it's never pretty, but it's always enough, because the rule was simple. One pot, one flame, one family. Grandma made this every single Friday for years. It was tradition. It was survival. It was the proof that even when you think there's nothing left, there's always something, always one more meal, always enough to make it through, and that's all you ever really needed. My grandmother's been gone for years now, but I still think about her pots. I think about the way she turned nothing into something, the way she fed us when there was no food left, the way she made us feel loved even when times were hard. These recipes aren't fancy. They're not Instagram-worthy. They're not the kind of thing you'd serve at a dinner party, but they're real. And they worked. And if you ever find yourself with nothing left in the cupboard and a family to feed, maybe one of these will help. Because Grandma always said, you don't need much to make a meal, you just need love. And one good pot. She was right. If this brought back memories, or if you learned something your own grandma used to make, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your stories, and if you want more recipes like this, hit that subscribe button, because there's a lot more where this came from. Thanks for watching, and remember, waste nothing, love hard, and always keep one good pot on the stove.